Billionaire takes girlfriend to dinner, but seeing his pregnant ex-wife changes everything. Chapter 1. Dubai, the glittering lights and hidden secrets. Dubai, a city of extravagant dreams and hidden secrets, glows brightly amidst the vast desert. This place holds a mysterious charm, blending modernity with tradition. Towering skyscrapers reach for the sky, while below lies the unceasing rhythm of life driven by successful individuals. Leonardo Vieri, the accomplished CEO of Vieri Capital, stepped out of his sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom, adjusting his tie and exuding the confident demeanor he was known for. Tonight, he and his new girlfriend Alessandra were dining at Al Sultan, a renowned Middle Eastern restaurant located on the 70th floor of a luxurious hotel frequented by Dubai's wealthiest elite. Alessandra, an international model, looked stunning in a shimmering black evening gown, holding Leonardo's arm as they entered the restaurant. The interior was bathed in warm golden light from crystal chandeliers, with the soothing melody of an oud playing softly in a distant corner. Tables were positioned by large glass windows, offering a breathtaking view of Dubai's glittering skyline under the nightlights. Everything seemed perfect, just as Leonardo always envisioned his life to be meticulously arranged. But as his eyes scanned the room, a familiar figure emerged, making him freeze in place. Sitting in a secluded corner of the restaurant was Amara Rossi, his ex-wife. Leonardo wasn't just drawn by Amara's unexpected presence, the woman he hadn't seen since their quiet divorce a year ago, but also by something else. Amara, in a simple pale blue dress, was unmistakably pregnant. Her noticeable baby bump made a silent but undeniable statement. She had begun a new life. He stood still, his usual cold rationality momentarily slipping away. Alessandra gently tugged his arm, pulling him back to reality. "Leonardo, are you okay?" she asked, her eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and concern. Leonardo forced a smile, shaking his head as if to reassure her, but his gaze remained locked on Amara. She didn't look at him, keeping her focus on the menu in front of her. Yet her calm demeanor unsettled him even more. Why was she here in Dubai, a place he never expected to see her? And the child she was carrying, whose was it? While Alessandra eagerly discussed plans for tomorrow's art auction event, Leonardo felt his mind being swept into a whirlwind of questions and memories from the past. He couldn't tear his eyes away from Amara, the woman who had once been his entire world, and now she seemed to belong to a world he could no longer reach. Tonight, under Dubai's dazzling lights, fate had orchestrated a moment for Leonardo to confront the woman he had lost and the truth that could forever change his life. Welcome to today's story. Don't forget to follow our channel to ensure you don't miss any meaningful stories every day. Leave a comment below and share where you're following this story from. Who knows, you might connect with fellow story lovers from around the world. Chapter 2. The Fateful Encounter. Leonardo tried to focus on his conversation with Alessandra, but her words felt like faint echoes in his mind. His thoughts were entirely consumed by the image of Amara. She seemed so different from the memories he still held of her, now radiating a maturity and resilience that was unmistakable. Yet her eyes still carried that same sadness he remembered, a sadness that made him feel like he had lost something precious that he could never regain. Finally, Amara looked up. For a fleeting moment, their eyes met, and time seemed to freeze. Leonardo couldn't tear his gaze away from her, but Amara was different. She remained composed, so calm that it made him feel as if he were staring at a stranger. Slowly, she lowered her gaze, letting it glide past him as though he didn't exist. Leonardo couldn't bear it. He abruptly stood from his chair, startling Alessandra. "I need some air," he said quickly before leaving the table. He strode quickly through the restaurant, ignoring the curious glances of the other diners. Amara, noticing Leonardo approaching, let out a soft sigh, placing her glass of water lightly on the table. She knew this confrontation was inevitable. "Amara?" Leonardo called her name, his voice low but tense as he stopped in front of her table, looking directly into her eyes. Amara looked up, her expression blank. "Leonardo," she responded, her tone polite but distant. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his eyes flicking quickly to her rounded belly. "And the baby." He trailed off, unable to finish his sentence. Amara gave a faint smile, one devoid of any warmth. I don't think that's any of your concern anymore, she replied, her gaze steady and unwavering. Leonardo felt a surge of anger rising within him. Amara, I have a right to know, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. If the baby is mine, you can't keep this from me. Amara leaned back in her chair, folding her arms. Leonardo, I have no obligation to explain anything to you. My life stopped being your concern the day we signed those divorce papers. Her tone was firm, though beneath it lingered a pain she refused to show. Her words felt like a slap in the face. Leonardo couldn't accept that Amara had completely removed him from her life, especially when a new life, possibly his child, was involved. He stared at her, struggling to find the right words, but the weight of her cold dismissal left him speechless. Amara, however, remained steady, her calm exterior betraying none of the turmoil beneath. In that moment, Leonardo realized just how much he had lost and how far Amara had gone to protect herself from him. Chapter 3. Memories of the Past. Leonardo sat in his luxurious apartment, the glowing lights of Dubai's skyline shimmering through the massive glass window. The glass of wine in his hand remained untouched as his mind wandered far away. Back to memories of Amara, the woman who once made him believe he could live a different kind of life. They had met for the first time at an art exhibition in Milan. Leonardo, already a young and successful CEO at the time, was captivated by Amara's simple yet passionate beauty. She was an unknown artist, completely immersed in her world of colors. In his meticulously calculated life, Amara was like a fresh breeze, bringing a sense of lightness and balance he didn't realize he needed. The days he spent with her were some of the rare times he felt truly alive. Amara supported every decision he made and loved him not for his power or wealth, but for who he was, something Leonardo rarely recognized. She believed that beneath his cold, rational exterior lay a warm heart, waiting to be touched. But their romance was eventually replaced by pressure. Leonardo began devoting more time to his work, frequently traveling for business and attending endless meetings. Their home in Milan grew colder with each passing day. Despite her deep love for him, Amara could not deny that she was slowly being left behind. One late evening, during one of their rare dinners together at home, Amara spoke softly. Leonardo, have you ever thought about us having children? The question caught him off guard. He paused mid-motion, looking at her with an expression of disbelief. Amara, you know how demanding my work is. I don't have time for things like that, he replied, his voice tinged with irritation. Things like that, Amara repeated, a sad smile playing on her lips. You mean a family? Children? A real life? Leonardo frowned. This isn't the right time. We're at the peak of our careers and having a child would ruin everything. Those words hit Amara like a dagger to her heart. She didn't argue further, only withdrawing into silence. But from that night on, the distance between them grew. Amara realized she could no longer stay with a man who didn't value her dreams, of having a family, of raising a child. Their marriage ended quietly. There were no loud arguments or accusations. Amara simply left, carrying her pain and determination to rediscover herself. Leonardo, in his usual cold and logical manner, convinced himself he had done the right thing, that work and success were all that truly mattered. But now, sitting alone in his opulent apartment, those memories returned like a storm. Leonardo felt a deep regret rising within him. He realized he had lost the one woman who had truly loved him, not for his status or achievements, but for who he really was. And now, seeing Amara in Dubai, pregnant and serene, he couldn't stop wondering, could the child be his? If it was, how much had he already missed? The unanswered questions haunted him, like ghosts from his past that he could not banish. Leonardo placed the glass of wine on the table, his gaze fixed on the city's nightscape. For the first time in his life, he felt completely out of control, and that terrified him. Chapter 4. The Confrontation After the Auction. Today, the art auction in Dubai, held at the Al Maktoum Grand Hotel, was the most anticipated event among the elite this year. Located on the rooftop of a skyscraper, the event was not only a place to showcase expensive artworks, but also an opportunity for powerful figures in finance, art, and fashion to meet and network. Leonardo Vieri, CEO of the financial conglomerate Viri Capital, appeared at the event with his usual elegance. He chose to attend the auction not just to display his status, but also to maintain his image as a businessman with influence in the art world. Beside him was Alessandra, his new girlfriend, a famous supermodel who drew all eyes in a daring black dress that shimmered under the chandelier lights. They were the center of attention, the perfect representation of the luxury of the upper class. In contrast, Amara Rossi, Leonardo's ex-wife, attended the event without any intention of showcasing herself. She was one of the artists whose paintings were being displayed at the auction. Amara's main piece, titled The Flow of Memories, was prominently placed in the center of the hall, attracting attention with its bold color scheme and deep emotions. Standing next to her was Lucas Moreno, her close friend and art manager. Lucas not only helped Amara promote her work, but also served as important emotional support, especially since she left her previous marriage. With his calm demeanor and ever-present smile, Lucas exuded a warmth that was in stark contrast to Leonardo's coldness. Amid the atmosphere filled with laughter and luxurious golden lights, the appearance of Leonardo and Amara, along with the contrast between Alessandra and Lucas, unintentionally created an underlying tension. No one expected that amidst the splendor of the auction, buried emotions from the past and unresolved conflicts would have a chance to resurface. As the auction concluded, Leonardo walked quickly through the hotel's spacious corridor, warm golden lights illuminating his path. Ahead, Amara was leaving with a calm demeanor, but he knew she was aware of his presence. "Amara!" he called, his voice cutting through the silence. Amara stopped, turned around, her eyes cold but steady. "Leonardo, what do you need?" He approached her, his gaze fixed intently on her growing belly. "We need to talk. The baby." He paused, searching for the right words. "Amara, I have the right to know. Is it mine?" Amara raised an eyebrow slightly, as if his question was utterly ridiculous. She folded her arms, looking at him with an expressionless gaze. "Leonardo, the baby has nothing to do with you," she said firmly. Her words were like a cold splash of water directly to Leonardo's face. "Amara, you can't say that." He tried to keep his voice calm, but the tension in his eyes was unmistakable. "If the baby is mine, you have no right to hide it from me." Amara let out a dry, cold laugh. "Leonardo, do you think everything in this life revolves around you? That you have the right to step in whenever you want and demand answers?" "Don't do this, Amara," he said, taking another step toward her. "If it's mine, I need to know. I have a responsibility." Amara narrowed her eyes, her lips pressed tightly before she replied, each word like a dagger. "Responsibility? You're talking about responsibility? When we were together, you never thought about having children, even considered it a burden to your career. And now you want to show up and talk about responsibility? Leonardo, it's too late." Leonardo was silent at her words. He knew she was right. In the past, he had outright rejected Amara's desire to have children, deeming it incompatible with his busy life. But now he couldn't accept being excluded from something so important. "Amara, I was wrong in the past," he said, his voice softening, almost pleading. "But don't shut me out of the baby's life. If you can't forgive me, I understand. But don't deny me the chance to be a father." Amara shook her head, her gaze unwavering. "Leonardo, the baby isn't yours. And even if it were, you're not someone who can bring happiness to it. I've seen how you live, how you always put work and yourself above everything. A child doesn't need a father like that." Leonardo was about to say something, but Amara's gaze stopped him. She wasn't just speaking cold words. Her eyes were filled with determination, as if she was ready to protect the baby from everything, including him. "Leonardo, my life and the baby's have nothing to do with you anymore. I've chosen my own path, and I'll protect it at all costs," she said, her voice firm and decisive. With that, Amara turned and walked away, leaving Leonardo standing silently in the corridor. He felt as if he had been swept into a storm, where everything he tried to hold on to was slipping out of reach. For the first time in his life, he felt completely powerless. Amara's silhouette gradually disappeared through the door, but her words still echoed in his mind. "The baby has nothing to do with you." Chapter 5. Leonardo pursues the truth. Leonardo couldn't sleep that night. The image of Amara and her resolute words kept replaying in his mind. The baby has nothing to do with you. That statement felt like a dagger piercing his pride and his heart. He didn't believe it. He couldn't believe it. Sitting in his luxurious apartment, the shimmering lights of Dubai's skyline glowing through the glass windows, Leonardo clenched his fists. Amara wasn't the type to lie easily, but her determination and distant attitude made him feel completely shut out from her life and the child. He needed to know the truth. The next morning, Leonardo called a trusted private investigator, someone he had worked with before in handling complex business deals. "I need you to investigate someone," he said, his voice cold but firm. The investigator didn't take long. Within a few days, Leonardo received a detailed report on Amara. The report revealed that after leaving their marriage, Amara had lived discreetly. She moved to Dubai, starting her life anew with freelance work and focusing on her art career. But what left Leonardo speechless was the discovery of a series of visits Amara made to a gynecology clinic shortly after their divorce. She had seen a specialist in reproductive health. She had even undergone fertility treatments, something Leonardo had never known about, something he hadn't even imagined. Leonardo sat frozen in front of his computer, the glow of the screen illuminating his tense face. He reread every line of the report, each word weighing heavily on his chest. Amara had wanted children. She didn't just want them. She had actively tried to make it happen, even when their marriage was on the brink of collapse. And he, the man who had dismissed the idea of children as unrealistic, had completely ignored her deepest desire. A wave of anger surged through Leonardo, but this time, it wasn't directed at Amara. It was aimed at himself. How could he have been so blind as to miss what she needed? How could he have let his work and his arrogance consume everything, leaving the woman he loved to fend for herself in pursuit of happiness elsewhere? But alongside the anger was a deep sense of pain. Leonardo had never considered that Amara might have felt so alone, so abandoned, that she had to fight for her dream entirely on her own, without his presence or support. He realized that while she had always tried to stand by him and love him, he had completely failed to reciprocate. Leonardo held a glass of wine in his hand, but he didn't drink it. His eyes remained fixed on the night outside the window, where Dubai's skyscrapers sparkled against the darkness. Now the only question in his mind was no longer whether the baby was his. Instead it was, if the child was his, what would he do to make amends for his past mistakes? And if it wasn't, how could he protect Amara, the woman he had abandoned, from the pain he had inadvertently caused? He placed the glass on the table, his gaze steely with determination. "I won't lose her again," he murmured to himself, for the first time in his life setting a goal not for work or success, but for the person he loved and the person who might change his life forever. Chapter 6. An unexpected crisis. A torrential downpour engulfed Dubai, with flashes of lightning tearing across the sky, creating a scene both majestic and terrifying. Amid the sound of pounding rain and roaring winds, Amara worked late in her art studio. Unfinished paintings lay scattered around, the small yet cozy space filled with the scent of oil paint and canvas. She sat down, gently rubbing her belly as a mild pain passed through her. Moments later, the pain intensified, coming in relentless waves. Amara tried to stand but collapsed to the floor, gripping the edge of her work table tightly. Shaking, she reached for her phone. But as she dialed her manager, the one person who always helped her in difficult situations, she was met with disappointing news. He was abroad and couldn't get to her in time. Panic overtook her as the pain grew unbearable. She knew something was wrong. Across the city, Leonardo was seated in a conference room of a luxurious hotel. Facing him were high-profile business partners, the final stage of a critical deal underway. But just as the meeting approached its climax, his phone vibrated. Leonardo glanced at the screen. It was Amara's manager. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, but he quickly answered, his expression darkening as he heard the frantic voice on the other end. "Leonardo, Amara is in danger. She's in severe pain and can't get to the hospital. I'm not in Dubai right now, and you're the only person I can call. Please help her." Those words hit Leonardo like a bolt of lightning. Without a second thought, he stood abruptly, cutting off the discussion in the room. "I have to leave. Cancel all remaining meetings, he declared. Leaving behind a room full of stunned faces, he quickly exited the hotel, his steps hurried but his mind consumed with worry. Leonardo sped through the torrential rain, droplets hammering against the windshield of his Range Rover as he navigated the slick roads. His thoughts focused on only one thing: Amara. When he arrived at her studio, Leonardo stepped out of the car, ignoring the downpour drenching him, and rushed inside. He found Amara on the floor, clutching her belly, her face pale and contorted in pain. "Amara!" Leonardo dropped to his knees beside her, his eyes filled with alarm. "Are you okay? I'm taking you to the hospital right now." Amara couldn't speak, only nodding weakly, her breathing labored and shallow. Without hesitation, Leonardo scooped her into his arms, feeling her trembling in helplessness against him. "Hold on to me," he said, his voice steady but carrying a fear he had never felt before. At the hospital, under the harsh, sterile lights, Amara was rushed into the emergency room as soon as they arrived. Leonardo stood outside, his hand gripping the edge of a chair, his eyes fixed on the closed doors. A sense of helplessness overwhelmed him, something entirely foreign to a man who was used to controlling every situation. Sometime later, the doctor emerged, his face grave. "She's in critical condition. We're doing everything we can, but you need to be prepared for the worst. She's lost a significant amount of blood." Leonardo felt his breath catch in his throat. He nodded silently and walked to the nearby window, staring out into the rain-soaked night. Waves of guilt crashed over him. If he hadn't ignored Amara from the beginning, if he hadn't been so consumed with his work, would she be enduring this alone now? For the first time in his life, Leonardo realized he couldn't fix this situation with power, money, or influence. All he could do was wait, pray, and hope that Amara, along with the fragile bond they had, could survive this storm. Amara was finally brought out of the operating room. She lay on the hospital bed, her face pale, her eyes weary, yet still reflecting a quiet resilience. Leonardo entered the room sitting beside her, his eyes softening as he saw that she was safe. Amara weakly called his name, her voice barely audible. "Leonardo." "I'm here," he said, gently taking her hand in his. Amara looked at him for a long moment. Gathering what strength she had, she whispered, "The baby is yours." Leonardo froze, feeling as though the entire world had stopped turning. He gripped Amara's hand tighter, unable to find the words to respond. "If I don't make it," Amara began, her voice trembling as tears welled up in her eyes. Yet despite her emotion, she spoke with unwavering resolve. "Please take care of the baby for me. Be the father they need." "Don't say that," Leonardo interrupted, his voice breaking. "You'll make it through, I promise you. I won't let anything happen to you or the baby." Amara gave him a faint smile, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and a sense of relief, as though she had finally let go of a fear she had held on to for so long. Leonardo looked at her, a wave of regret and determination washing over him. Whatever happened, he knew he couldn't lose Amara again. He would protect this family, not for duty or honor, but for love. Chapter 7. The Fight to Survive. Amara was transferred to the intensive care unit, the steady beeping of medical equipment a fragile rhythm between life and death. Leonardo stood outside her room, his eyes fixed on the glass window, watching her fragile form lying motionless in the sterile light. In that moment, Leonardo felt utterly powerless. A man who had always been in control of every situation was now helpless to protect the woman he realized he still loved, and the unborn child who might change his life forever. Amara, in her semi-conscious state, felt the relentless pain coursing through her body. Yet above all, she felt a powerful drive: the baby. She knew she couldn't give up. Somehow she had to survive, not just for herself, but for the tiny life waiting for her on the other side of this battle. Memories of the days she had faced life alone after the divorce flooded her mind. She had learned to be strong, to rebuild herself from heartbreak, but now she realized she was no longer alone. Leonardo, despite the distance between them in her mind, was here, ready to fight for her and their child. The hours of waiting felt endless. Leonardo sat silently in the hospital corridor, unable to take his eyes off the door to the intensive care unit. But in his mind, Memories and thoughts began to piece themselves together. He recalled all the times Amara had tried to talk to him about her dream of having a family, her longing to become a mother, but he had dismissed her. To him, work, prestige, and success had always been the priority. Yet now, standing at the brink of loss, he realized that none of it mattered without the people he loved by his side. Leonardo finally understood that the true value of life wasn't found in billion-dollar deals or glittering accolades, but in love and family, things he had once taken for granted. After hours of tension, the doctor emerged from the room, pulling off his mask to reveal a tired but relieved smile. "She's out of danger," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Both mother and baby are safe, but they'll need time to recover fully." Leonardo nearly collapsed with relief. He nodded, unable to speak, feeling a wave of warmth and gratitude flood his chest. When Amara woke, the soft morning light streamed into the hospital room. She felt weak but lighter in her heart as she saw Leonardo sitting beside her, his eyes filled with worry and affection. "You're okay now," he said softly, taking her hand. "Both you and the baby are safe. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Amara looked at him, her eyes brimming with tears. "Leonardo, I don't know if I can believe that. You've always chosen work over me. I don't want the baby to grow up feeling the same disappointment I did." Leonardo paused, taking a deep breath. "Amara, I know I've been wrong. I can't change the past, but I can change the present and the future. I've realized work isn't everything. You and the baby are what matter most to me. I'll do everything to prove that to you." Amara remained silent, looking deeply into his eyes. In them, she saw a sincerity she had long hoped to see. "Leonardo," she said softly, "what I need isn't just words. I need to see that you're truly here, for me and for the baby." "I promise," he replied, his voice steady. "I won't leave again." As the two sat in the gentle glow of morning, hope began to bloom between them. They both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, they were ready to face it together. For love, for family, and for the future they both deserved. We're free, a new chapter for the family. In the days that followed, Leonardo dedicated all his time to Amara and their child. He started with the smallest of tasks, learning to change diapers, holding the baby, and even rocking her to sleep. Every time he looked into the baby's innocent eyes, he felt as if life had granted him a second chance to make things right. Amara remained cautious, but she couldn't deny the changes in Leonardo. He was no longer the cold man consumed by work. He had become a true father, and perhaps for the first time in his life, a partner she could rely on. One radiant morning in Dubai, sunlight bathed the city's skyscrapers in golden hues. In a cozy apartment on the outskirts of downtown, gentle laughter filled the tranquil air. Leonardo sat by the window, holding their newborn daughter in his arms. The little girl, with her wide, mother-like eyes, grasped his finger, melting his heart. Memories of years spent alone, consumed by work, now felt like a distant past. Amara stood nearby, watching the scene with a tender gaze. She had once doubted whether Leonardo could truly change, but his small, consistent actions in recent days convinced her of his sincerity. Leonardo had abandoned numerous critical meetings to spend time caring for their child and sharing the responsibilities with her. "You know," Leonardo said, breaking the silence. He looked directly at Amara, his voice warm and earnest. "I've spent so much time chasing the wrong things, but I don't want to waste another second. You and our daughter are everything to me." Amara said nothing, only offering a soft smile. She knew they still had a long journey ahead, but now they had a foundation to start anew, with trust, love, and a shared purpose. That afternoon, they took their daughter to the park, where gentle sunlight filtered through the trees. Leonardo carried the baby, occasionally glancing at Amara walking beside him. He realized in the simplicity of these moments that he had found something money or fame could never provide: family. Amara turned to him, her voice quiet yet filled with meaning. "Leonardo, I don't know how far we can go, but I'm willing to try again, if you keep your promise." Leonardo took her hand, his eyes resolute. "I will, Amara. I'll prove it, not with words but with actions. We can't change the past, but I'll do everything to create the future you and our daughter deserve." They continued walking under the sunlight, as if the world had been reset anew. In their eyes, the future was no longer just about pressures or responsibilities. It was a new journey where the three of them could build a complete and loving home together. The story closed with the image of their small family walking through the park, the bright sunlight illuminating their path ahead, a symbol of hope and a promise of a new beginning filled with love. Thank you for following our story. How would you rate this tale from 1 to 10? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Your feedback means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and share this story with others.